Yo, what's up, everybody? So, what I want to do today is just kind of an impromptu recording. Um, this is not my usual setup. I'm sitting at my laptop in a vacant house, so I can do some laundry. I won't get into the story there, but I kind of just wanted to do this to basically practice what I preach. You know, one of the things that we claim to really understand at the Free Producer is hopefully this mic is working okay. It looks like it's showing up. Um, don't know if there's going to be like some crazy traffic noise or whatever. But one of the things that we claim to really understand at the Free Producer is the frustration and the kind of burnout involved in being a beginner producer and maybe not even being a beginner necessarily. Like you can have a lot of experience and still experience this kind of um, frustration, I guess. You know, maybe impatience is another way of putting it. Um, Basically, the idea is just there. There uh, in anything that you pursue, there are going to be parts of it. There are going to be skills that you need to build, and that struggle to do the thing before you know how to do it is a struggle that you'll have to endure. There's no shortcut. So, one thing that I am kind of trying to get away from today is hopping into Ableton, which is something that a piece of software that I have about 10 years of experience with. I don't, that's kind of missing the point when I do that. I'm not going to stop doing that because Ableton is, um, I think it's also worth noting and it's worth seeing that it is possible to get that comfortable with a piece of software. But um, it, it, today, what I want to do is get out of that and work in a program that I am far less familiar with, which is Audacity. And I'm going to keep talking while I look for my mic here, or sorry, my mouse. Um, so the very first uh, song that I ever recorded was actually in Audacity. Some of you may have seen me mention that. Oh, look, here it is. Some of you may have seen me mention that in the Free Producer. I think last week when I made a post about Audacity. So my first song that I ever wrote was with a friend of ours whose name is Addison, and he was learning to play the bass at the time. And so he came over, and I had like a little guitar riff that I basically recorded a guitar part, and then I showed him how to play it on the bass, and we tried to get those two things synced up together, which was a nightmare. I didn't know what latency was. Um, I also didn't know how to put a click track in Audacity. I think this is new, but back then, the way that you see, hold on, let me switch this. Um, Minutes and seconds. I don't know that you were able to do this before, um, but from what I understand, back then you could only have a time track that was based on minutes and seconds, which is not particularly helpful when it comes to making um, when it comes to making music, right? When you're like reviewing tracks, it can be really helpful because you can say like there at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. There's something about that that's like that I want to revisit. But when you're actually recording the song, saying that that part comes in at 3 minutes 20 seconds and not having a click track, um, not being able to say like, oh, that I want that thing to happen at bar 17 or bar 35 or whatever. That gets difficult. And so anyway, we tried, and I still have the recording, and it wasn't great. It was clipping a lot. We basically tried really, really hard to have a like I think 30-second part where uh, actually two instruments were synced up, and that was really, really tough. And so the end of the song was basically just a big long vamp with the guitar afterwards, no bass or anything, because that was difficult. So anyway, all that to say is I have spent some time in Audacity, but not much. Um, Usually when I'm in Audacity, it's because I want something that boots up really fast, and I can just drop audio files in to check them out and just make sure that they look okay, right? Because sometimes you bounce something out in like Ableton. Like I'm still guilty of this. I bounced something out from Ableton and I accidentally cut off a fade out, for instance. I have some stuff selected, and so it bounces everything out within that selection, and it doesn't fade out like it happens when I listen to it in Ableton. So if I don't drop it into some software like Audacity to check it out, well, it's quite possible that I'm going to upload the wrong thing to DistroKid. And that is something that happened as recently as last week when Skylar and I were doing Filming Friday for Steve Kelly's releases that we uploaded to DistroKid to release for him. So, anyway, about 6 minutes um, of exposition. So let's get into it. Basically, what I want to do today is I want to make a beat or a song or some kind of musical piece. And what I am not going to have at my disposal is Ableton. So that's going to be tricky. I don't have my sample library because that's on my hard drive. That's not on my laptop. I don't have any samples on me. Actually, you know what? I might have some samples on the SD card that's uh, in the laptop right now, but I'm not even going to look because that's a constraint that I'm trying to stick to. I don't have an internet connection right now, so I can't go look for samples. So I want to do absolutely everything in Audacity, um, totally in the box. So we're going to see if we can do that. And I will show you what I've got playing so far, just to test the audio one more time. Now that's a song. So one thing that's really cool, well, there's a ton of things that are really cool about Audacity, and this is one of the reasons I think it's important to try out different pieces of software, um, and not just get used to one thing that you are lost without. So the thing with Audacity is that you can like generate audio files, which is not really something you can do through a menu like this. Can you even see that menu? Let me move this. No, you cannot. Let me fix that really quick. Okay, you should be able to see that now. Okay, so this is what I was saying. In Ableton, if I wanted to do something like this, I would have to bring in a MIDI track and then put a MIDI instrument on it. I would use operator with a sine wave oscillator, and then even then that might be kind of difficult to do the kind of thing that I can do here with just generate chirp, and you can just put the beginning frequency and the end frequency, the amplitude at the start, the amplitude at the end, and it'll generate this for you. That's what that was. Right. And that's not particularly interesting, so I don't want to start with that. But um, yeah, basically all I'm trying to say is that being in Audacity is going to it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's going to afford me the opportunity to do some cool things that are not usually available to me in Ableton through a unique UI, because this is completely different. The software architecture here is completely different than Ableton. There are certain key consistencies. There are things that have to be the same when you're working from one audio production tool to another. But on the other hand, I'm not going to have those crutches that I normally have to lean on, which that is really mimicking what it's like there at the start because you have no crutches to lean on. All you have is just um, is what you know, which is basically next to nothing. So as especially compared to like after 10 years of being in that software, um, you get what I'm saying. So what I want to do first, let's go ahead and get started with making something musical. I'm going to change this to beats and measures. So now you can see right here, instead of counting 0.0 seconds, 1.0 seconds, 2.0, 3.0, it's going to count one. This is the start of the first bar, and then 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and then it's the second bar, right? And we can also change the tempo down here in the bottom left corner. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to, let's do something really kind of out of the ordinary. We might change this later, but I'm going to set it to like a 65, which is pretty slow. Normally, I would probably set that actually to like 130, but both, I could set it to 130 and set it to 65, and technically it would be the same. But I also think that setting it to the 65 is going to yield a different outcome, right? The metronome might technically be the same. You could argue that it is not different to do 65 or 130, but I, um, for me, I think if I set it to something really slow, that's going to yield the kind of song that I'm trying to write today. Versus like 130, I think it would cause me to write something a little more high energy. What I want to do is probably like some ambient kind of stuff, something with a rhythm for sure. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to start with a glissé drum, or it looks like risset drum. Glissé was a French, one of the um, pioneers of electronic music back in like the 50s, 40s. I'm not even sure. But a long time ago, considering that computers and writing music on computers is like 80s, 90s territory. These people were using like a reel to reel and generating crazy stuff to tape. Um, and Lise was one of those guys. So hopefully I'm pronouncing that French name correctly. And so with generating this drum, I can choose the frequency, and then I can choose the decay. I can choose the center frequency. I might mess around with some of this stuff, but this is just like the really cool thing about Audacity is like you can pick one of these options, and then it brings up its own dedicated menu with parameters, which generates the audio file, right? Which is not very common. In my experience, it's not very common to have a piece of audio production software that works that way, or at least not music production software. Okay, so that makes kind of a timpani sound. We could go 50 hertz. What's that? Still kind of sounds like a timpani. And then this goes all the way up to 2000. Let's just try like a 500. Okay, so that is actually an FM. It's almost like a bell when you get up here. Yeah. Um, yeah, the thing is, that's going to get less and less musical. I won't go into that discussion about what is musical and what is noise, but just with the overtone series that you can hear, once you get up here, that is not a particularly like harmonious overtone series, so would, if you had a piano that was making that sound, you would say the piano is out of tune, right? But let's just start with a really let's do like 350. That's kind of cool. Let's just go ahead and generate that. Okay. And I'm gonna check laundry really quick. Give me one sec. All right. It's not ready for me. So I'm gonna start with that. And instead of maybe making that part of the actual rhythm track, I think I just want to use that as a very um, part of the ambient sound, not so much the uh, the drum track like you might think about it. Down here again in the bottom left, I can hit snap, which will allow me to snap the cursor to these uh, 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 divisor. What is this? What are those called? Note values. So if I set it to 1/16th, I can snap to the 16th notes. But I'm going to just do like a bar and then go ahead and zoom out so it'll just snap entire bars. The reason I want to do that is because I believe if I just select this clip and then I go generate, no, effect, delay and reverb, and then I add some reverb to it. If I apply that, it will only affect that part that I have selected, which sounds okay in this scenario. Let me change something really quick so I can show you more what I'm talking about. If I select it right here, or like here, and then do generate, nope, effect, delay and reverb, it's only going to affect the part that I have selected. Okay. So you can hear that reverb is not applied for as long as the reverb would last. It's only applied to the part that I have selected. So for that, the reason I bring that up is because I want a really long reverb that lasts maybe a few bars. And so using the snap function, I'm going to select 2 full bars and then add some reverb. So actually, you know what? Let's add some delay first. That's too fast. That's not exactly what I'm looking for. So delay time, let's do like 1 second. Yeah, like that. And then that fades out. You can choose the number of echoes. There's just so much like concrete granularity that you get. Like in Ableton, if you're like, let's add an echo, the parameters that you have to choose, they don't give you an option to say like, I specifically want 5 echoes. It would be more like, I want it to echo at this rate for this long, but then you would still have to kind of tweak things if you want specifically 5 echoes. Oh, and then there's a pitch change per echo. So let's do that. That's kind of interesting. Let's do -1 semitone with every echo. Maybe not quite so um, like a 1 semitone. Let's do something smaller, like -0.3. And let's have the delay be like 0.75 seconds, actually. Actually, I think I like the 1 second better. So let's just go ahead and commit that. That is important. I could be here all afternoon adjusting this stuff if I don't decide to commit it. And then I think I want to join. Yeah, join clips. Okay, all right. Then we play this. Turn this up a little bit. Alright, so now that we have that echo, now I'm going to add the reverb. And it sounds like the laundry's ready for me now. So I like that, but I do want to turn the dampening down. I think. And maybe turn the room size up. I don't know. Let's turn the reverberance up. Okay. That's a little more like what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and almost apply that. One more thing I want to do is turn the if I turn the low down, what is that? I think that's like a high pass filter, and then tone high, turn that all the way down to 0. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so tone high, I'm turning down to 0%, and it sounds like that's going to apply a low pass filter to this thing. I could also do wet only. Oh, now that's cool. Do I even want to keep the original drum? Um, Maybe we'll just do wet only. Apply that. Honestly, I think that's good. That's going to be a better bed to build things off of rather than having that dong 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 like every time. So, in order to get this a little healthier, let's normalize it. I don't think I want to go all the way up to -1 because that's going to be pretty loud and it's going to eat up our headroom. And I don't know exactly how easy it is to regain that headroom. I can tell you how easy it would be in Ableton because I know exactly how to do it. But in Audacity, I want to be more careful not to eat it up because I don't know how to kind of broad stroke reintroduce that headroom. Okay, that's cool. Alrighty. Turn this up. Okay. So we got a little bit of a bass there, or like a bed. Let's go ahead and split this. Take this and just go ahead and delete it. And okay, so I want to copy and paste it over to here. I know that there's a shortcut for doing that because I've seen it done. Edit, and I know it's not duplicate because that does this. So that's different from Ableton. In Ableton, duplicate would set one after the other, not create a new track. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll just do it manually. I don't want to waste too much time. So let's just do 2 of those, and then I can select all of this and enable looping. So I just right-clicked up here and then did enable looping. So I think it'll loop whatever's selected there. Okay, and let's rename this to the Lise drum reverb, and Another cool thing about Audacity is that you can change the way it displays. So right now we're set up to show amplitude, but we could also show dB, which is like this. So silence is, or minus 60, which is basically silence, is in the middle here. And then the deviation away from that shows how close it's getting to 0 dB. Which, now that I'm looking at it, that's pretty well normalized. We're hitting minus 6. So anyway, we can also do a linear like this. So there's a minus infinity, and then there's a minus 6 dB, and then we can see up above that is the space from minus 6 dB to 0 dB. It doesn't matter a lot. Another thing we can do is set it to a spectrogram, which is really cool. So basically, this is the frequencies down from 0 hertz up to about 20K, 19K. So we can see there's not really anything above like 3000, which is what we expected because we added that low pass filter to the reverb. And that's just a cool way of seeing things. You know, honestly, I think a spectrogram gives you a lot more information than the waveform does. But the waveform is a lot easier to build songs around, you know. So, you know, just for fun, I'm going to just leave this at the spectrogram. Okay, and now I think it's time to add a little more rhythm so that we can hear the tempo. So let's add a stereo track, and then I'm gonna have something occur every quarter note, and I kind of want it to flop back and forth between the left and the right. I just don't know what that's gonna be yet. We could set a pluck with this pluck that's at a pitch of 1, whatever that means. The pitch goes from 1 to 120, and then there's that 120 is that really high thing that you just heard, and then there's something just about in the middle right there. So and then we can also choose between abrupt and gradual, right? But I want to do abrupt, and I think I want to do something pretty low like that. And we can also change how long it lasts, which I want this to be in seconds and milliseconds so that I can do a real short, like 10 milliseconds. Maybe not quite that short. 110 milliseconds? Yeah. I don't know. And then let's go ahead and add a fade out to this. So we can do probably effect, volume, and compression. No, fading. I think it would be fading. And then fade out, just like that. And how do we grab just the one channel? If I do split, no, that splits it from left to right. Well, I'm not exactly sure how to do that. So, you know what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and just add 2 new mono tracks. Instead of doing it the way that I wanted to do it, which was having 1 stereo track for both, I am just going to I'm just going to find a workaround and deal with it. So in order to move it from this stereo track, I think I can just Do it like this? No? Okay. Maybe I'll just generate a new one then. So generate pluck at one. Yeah, okay, so it kept everything. And I can delete what's going on there. Let me go ahead and delete this first stereo track. And then we need to add this fade back in, fade out. And I'm going to pan the one track to the left and the other to the right. And I am also going to turn the volume down on both of these, like -10, because we really just want kind of a rhythmic element, but it's not going to be a main element, if you know what I mean. Let me copy this, and oh, okay, it needs me to snap, so we'll do that. See what this sounds like. Yeah, I don't know. I think that sounds okay. Let's go ahead and continue this throughout. Okay. Okay, now on both of these, I want something. I want to make it a little more interesting than just what it's already doing, which is just so. But what? If we reverse it, can I reverse? I can. I don't know that I really like that as much. So, what if we Paul stretch it? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I'm just going to use the default parameters there. It's going to apply a Paul stretch to. Okay. So I like that enough that I'm actually just. That's not what I was hoping it would do for me because it stretched it out like 37 bars. But, you know, we can work around that. So I'll just take this and we need to snap it to half notes. Split this. By the way, it is worth noting the keyboard shortcuts for sure. I used to think that they were overrated. I think that I was wrong for sure. So anytime I want to split something, it's worth noting I can do Control I. And that's true of like everything that it tells you that there's a keyboard shortcut for. If you're going to do it more than once, it's probably worth just understanding that you can use that. So just do this, and then I need to do quarter here. Whoops. Like that. Let's go to here. All right, and Control I, and we can use delete. But I'm also curious what's in. Okay, just some basic stuff. Let's see what this sounds like. And I like that, but I do think that that rhythmic part should even come down lower, so I'm going to do a -20. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. And now, I wonder if I can reconcile these into one, make stereo track. There we go. Okay, so I could select both of these mono tracks. The tracks you're attempting to merge contain stereo clips the tracks you are attempting to merge to stereo contain clips at different positions or otherwise mismatching clips. Merging them will render the tracks. This causes any real-time effects to be applied to the waveform. Do you wish to continue? Yes, because I think I can undo it if it. Oh, I see. So it was saying since I turned it down, according to the track, according to the channel, it was minus 20 dB. It actually applied that to the audio uh, file or the audio clip here, and then according to the channel, it's now back at 0 dB. And that's exactly what I wanted. I love it. And yeah, by the way that I'm kind of thinking about this track is just like a real kind of creepy ambient. Um, like you're walking through a dark hallway, all you can see is what your flashlight is lighting up, and it's supposed to build some suspense towards maybe like a boss battle that's coming up or some kind of creepy encounter with a character. I'm thinking about it from a video game perspective. So, this isn't like the next Drake track or um, uh, or whatever J. Cole. This isn't a J. Cole beat. This is supposed to be in kind of a different setting, which is just like an eerie video game, maybe. And thinking about things from that kind of perspective, where it's like I'm not trying to make a very polished hip hop beat. I'm trying to make something that is like a little eerie and a little creepy. I think that can take a lot of pressure off of you. Because if you went into Ableton or you went into Audacity and you're like, I need to make the dopest beat I've ever made. Well, maybe you can't, but maybe you can manage to make an ambient creepy track, right? So let's set up a rhythm track, I guess. Tempo we need to set to honestly. So I'm gonna double 65 to 130, and then I'm gonna double it once more to 260, and that gives us like a what 16th note, 32nd note. I'm not sure. And then we'll add a little bit of swing, I guess. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. You know what I'm saying? Duke Ellington would tell you that. And let's preview this. And if we pitch the strong beat up, okay, pitch the weak beat down. Okay, and if we didn't have any swing, it would sound like this, which is probably more what we're going for. We could also go in the opposite direction, minus swing, so there's positive and negative swing. But, this isn't supposed to be a real groovy thing. Let's just make it kind of driving. So we'll do as close to 0 as we can get. I guess I could just type that in. And we could swap the weak beat and the strong beat. I think I like that better because that also gives us kind of a hi-hat and a kick drum a little bit. Looks like we can also change the sound here, but let's do that on a second run. So here's what we've got all together. Now, the thing that I am really enjoying about this workflow is if I were to make something like this in Ableton, after like 10 years of experience, I would, if I made something like this and that's what I could manage to do, I think I would be really hard on myself where I'm like, dude, this kind of sounds like crap. Like, you're way better than this. But I'm actually pushing myself to my limits in Audacity here. And that fact makes this very same thing, just in a different program, sound much cooler. Like I'm getting more satisfaction out of this because it's harder for me to do. Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's do another pass with the rhythm track. Let me go ahead and save this while I'm thinking about it as well. I'll just save it to my desktop. Um, oh yeah, and it looks like this SD card is actually empty. So we will oops, just go to here and create a folder called Audacity Projects. Another thing I didn't realize back in the day was, I'm just going to call this Silent Hallway. Another thing I didn't realize back in the day, which is going to sound silly, is that there's a difference between saving projects and saving the audio file, exporting the audio file. Again, I know that sounds silly, but that's just one of those things. Projects cannot be saved to fat drives. It was formatted on a Windows computer, which makes it a fat drive. I don't know why it doesn't like that, but, or does it? Maybe that would actually be, did I format? I might have formatted that on a Linux machine. Maybe that's it. Let me just try to save this actually to my desktop. Call it Silent Hallway. Okay, it liked that. I don't know. I don't know. Let's go to generate rhythm track again. And it's going to keep all of our changes that we made to these parameters. So I'm going to reset it to factory defaults, going to preset and factory presets and settings, go to factory presets, and then defaults. You can also import and export, so that's cool. If I, for instance, the last one that we did, if I wanted to save that and reuse that later, I totally could. Let's change this to, I'm just curious what these other sounds are. So here's a short ping. Okay. Here's a long ping. I can see that being kind of a cool ambient effect. There's a cowbell, resonant noise. And a noise click. Drip short. You see where I'm at as far as recording. Okay, we're about 45 minutes. I'm going to put about 15 more minutes into this, and then we're just going to call that a finished track. Okay, so I like that, but I think I want to set this to like, I was thinking maybe 65 because that's the tempo of the song that we're writing. But honestly, we could even go even lower and do a 32.5. And I think I like that. I want to. Let me change the pitches one more time. So the strong beat we're going to pitch all the way up. The weak beat we're going to pitch all the way down. Okay. Well, that's too dramatic. So let's go to here. Okay. Um, I think that sounds okay. Let's generate that, and I didn't need 16 bars of it, so again, Control I, delete that, and I. The reason I wanted that to be so slow is because I had something in mind, which was adding reverb to this, but not wet only, something like that. See what that sounds like with everything all together. Yeah, and honestly, obviously it's not like the absolute coolest thing I've ever written, but I like it. It's got its kind of unique characteristic to it, which is all a song has to do. Like, it doesn't need to be 3 minutes long. It doesn't need to be in a certain genre. It doesn't need to match the rest of your catalog. You don't need to have spent 6 hours on it or 18 hours on it. Like, this thing is also a song. Like, that's a really big part of what we try to encourage in the free producer is like I worked by the time I'm done, I will have worked on this for like an hour. And if I think that it's unique and has a certain characteristic that I want to share with people, then damn it, it's a song. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I could release it on streaming platforms if I felt confident about it. If this was something that I would want to show people and be like, hey, check out this, thing. I've been messing around with Audacity lately. Check out this thing I made. It it I don't have to listen to this and be like, well, that kind of sucks, like, and I don't think it's helpful to do that, but I think we do it pretty often. So one last thing I want to do is just add some chords. Now the thing is, Mr. Audacity here does not give us native MIDI compatibility. So I don't believe there's any way to actually put MIDI notes in here and use VST instruments that way. I don't have any VST instruments on this device on this computer anyway, so we're gonna have to figure out how to do that. And I think a good place to, excuse me, I think a good place to start would be tone. So generate tone. That's just going to go to a new audio track here. And let's make it a triangle. And it sounds brash right now, but what I want to do is actually apply a low pass filter to it. But not, well, yeah, no, not quite yet, because I want to transpose this, and I don't want that low pass filter to be committed to this as I transpose it up and build a chord out of this one note. So let's do the Control D, the duplicate from earlier, and now we can do pitch and speed. So we'll just go up by 3 semitones, and to be add a little more interest, let's do 10 cents as well. So 3 whole steps, but also, I'm sorry, 3 half steps, but also 10 cents. So like 1/10 of a step. So 3.1 steps up is what we're doing. And I want to keep that going. I think what's going on right now, it sounds clanky, it sounds clunky and a little janky, but I think a big part of what's going on is just that there's not enough happening to make it really feel cohesive yet. So let's actually build a full chord. something like this. And don't forget, we're going to add a low pass filter and maybe do a little extra processing later on. So yes, it sounds pretty ugly right now, but we'll be getting there. Basically, what I'm doing is I started with one note, and then I went up 3 half steps, which was a minor third, and then I went up from the original. I went up 7, which is a fifth. Now I'm going up 10, which is a seventh. So basically, what I built a minor seventh chord. That's all I've done so far. And let's actually change this one. Let's go down one half step. So we get a Dorian chord, or a natural 13 there. And I was planning to go even higher than that, but I don't want that characteristic note, that natural 13, I don't want that to get buried underneath the extensions that just keep going higher and higher. So maybe we won't end up doing this, but let's do 14 semitones. Oh, we can only do 12, which means we will go up 12, and then I need to render pitch and speed. Okay, so now when I go to pitch and speed, it assumes this is the original now. Hopefully you see what I'm saying. Now I'm going to go up 2 half steps, which is going to be a ninth from the original note. And I like that. So far, again, like, have some faith. This sounds janky right now, but let's add one more extension, which is going to be the 11. Okay, now we've got all these different guys. So these are all different notes of the chord. I want to somehow consolidate all these down to one clip. How do I do that? Render tracks mix. Yeah, okay, so with all of these selected, I think I need to go to mix and render. I'm not sure what resample does. That from my understanding, resample would be the same thing as mix and render, but they must not be the same thing since there's both options. Okay, so now you can see I took all 6 of those different tracks and smashed them down into just this one guy right here. So let me solo this. Okay, and we can switch this to spectrogram. Okay, so now if I expand this, you can see we have a lot going on all across the frequency spectrum. So what I want is for this to not quite be so harsh, not so bright. So I'm going to go to Effect, EQ, and Filters, and then finally, this is the piece that's been missing, low pass filter at 1,000 hertz maybe. And I'm going to do a really sharp cutoff because I want this to be super dramatic. Okay, so now you see it cut everything above. Well, here's 1,000, and then everything above 1,000 gets up to 48 decibels of gain reduction. Okay, so that sounds a lot more palatable. It's not quite so jarring. And I am even going to turn that down to like that. That's what I had in mind from the get-go. But we had to have a little faith and trust the process. I'm going to switch this back to waveform, and let's see what it all sounds like now. Okay. And just so that it's not only 15 seconds long, let's go ahead and copy all this to here. And let's do another one. And let's do another one. And that'll be about 1 minute long. And with each of these, I am just going to pitch that. So the first time it's going to sound like this. Okay. Then the second time it's going to go up one whole step. And then the third time it's going to go down one whole step from the original. And then from there it's going to go down one more beyond that. And let's do one more kind of diegetic thing, which, by the way, diegetic just means like you have your musical your musical noises, musical sounds, but like people talking in a bookstore, for instance, that's not musical, but it's still a kind of sound, and so we call that diegetic sound, where it kind of it doesn't clue you into what's going on harmonically or musically, but it clues you into what's going on like in the environment. So let me go ahead and do something a little strange here. Let me make a new track, add new mono track, and I think that my mic is set up. I think there we go. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to solo this so I can't hear anything. And I'm going to record myself. I'm going to record myself talking. I guess when it soloed, that didn't really matter because it doesn't really matter, it seems. Alright, I just wanted a little bit of, make sure that's, yeah, picking up, okay. I just wanted a little, like, speech from myself, but I don't want it to really be, I don't want you to be able to hear what I'm actually saying. So I'm going to stretch this out so that it's just kind of weird and happens across the entire track here. Maybe stretch it out to there and see what that sounds like. And we're still looping that just the first 4 bars, so let's go ahead and stretch that out so that it's 17 bars. Okay. And what I actually want to do, let's chop this off the end here. So go ahead and delete that. And then I want to add some just kind of weird I don't know, some kind of effect that just sounds strange. Maybe a vocoder, guess. Okay. Let's do a 240. Yeah, I like that. And we'll add some white noise in there. Percent of white noise, I guess we'll do like a 30 maybe. I like that. Let's go ahead and apply it. And this is going to take a second because it needs to calculate everything. Ha-cha-cha. I'm going to go check on the laundry. Alright. Laundry's giving me grief, but whatever. So here's what we've got. I am going to record my... Okay, so a little bit of just strange vocal stuff. And, you know, you could take it even a couple steps further and maybe vocode it one more time, add some reverb, and then vocode that. Whatever, like, if I was spending like an entire afternoon, I would be definitely going further into messing around with this stuff. But I'm going to try and cut it here in just a few minutes. So let me change this by adding a low pass filter. And we're going to do everything above maybe 500. Yeah, I like that. And actually, you know what? Let's do low pass filter, but let's do like an 800 instead. And let's add reverb throughout here. Yeah, and I think I like that. But let's bring some of the highs back in. Okay, and let's turn the reverberance down to maybe like, I don't know, 70 instead of 100%. And let's commit to it. Actually, you know what? I think that 70 did a little too much. Let's do it one more time. Reverb and reverberance, turn it back up to 100. And one more thing I want to do, let's bring the reverb back up, and let's pull that low, let's add like a high pass filter or a low cut. Okay, apply that. Okay, and one more thing I want to do, I'm going to save this and then save a new project. Save one more time, save as, save project as, and then I'm just going to do this, I'm going to call this mix and render is what it's called. So mix render, because I want to select all of these and go to track, mix and render. And now, okay, everything is on one single track. Another way I could have done that is just make a new track or make a new project and then bring an exported version in. They're the same thing. But the reason I wanted to do that is because I want to repeat that reverb across the entire track. And And that's the finished version. Yeah, and I like that. I mean, obviously you can hear it, and you could probably tell that there's a good amount of things that we could uh, do to improve it. One is like if we had the stems, we could arrange it better and comp it. So like this part needs to drop out right here. This it needs to drop out here. This part needs to drop out here. So it adds a little more variety and motion between things. But you know, um, I think it's good for where it's at. And yeah, basically what I'm seeing in my head is like that scene in Max Payne where he's having the dream where if you don't know the story behind Max Payne, he's a New York cop who was framed for killing his wife and his baby daughter. It's pretty heavy. And so he has this dream in which he is wandering through this like vast nothingness, following trails of blood and hearing his these baby screams and his wife screams, and he's trying to get closer and closer to wherever they are, but he doesn't know how to get there. He's just following this like maze, which is a trail of blood, and it's really frustrating. It's that part of the game is really hard, but anyway, that's the scene that I'm kind of seeing in my head while this is playing. So I think it would work in that scenario. And again, like, I would not take this to a rapper and be like, hey, check out this beat, bro. Like, uh, you know, maybe somebody could make it work, but I don't think it like plays that kind of role, I guess. But anyway, here we are with a finished track in Audacity, and I hope you guys got a little something out of this, even if you just like skipped through and saw some things here and there. So, yeah, thanks for watching and enjoy. Have fun experimenting. Give Audacity a try. All right, peace out.